Hello YouTube, I hope you're having a great day. I'm excited about today's video. I have been working on it on and off for the last few weeks, and it started off with the top 10 Excel features everybody should be using, and then it grew past that, grew past 15, and I had to trim it back. So today's video is going to be the top 15 Excel features everybody should be using, whether you're a student or you're in the office. That way you're maximizing every feature in Excel. The status bar in Excel is awesome. You ever need a quick calculation where you just needed a quick addition of the Friday sales? You don't feel like clicking in G36, putting in the sum function just to find a quick calculation. In this situation, the status bar will fulfill everything you need to do without having to build a function to do so. If you notice, I went ahead and I selected my range here. And if you look all the way down here in the bottom corner of my screen, the status bar is displaying 3 different calculations for me without keying in anything. It tells me my average, it tells me my count, and it tells me my sum. I'm not limited to just these either. If I right click here on the status bar, I could do numerical count, min, and max. Take advantage of your status bar. Have you ever been in an Excel sheet and you're looking at it and you're like, I know some of these are manual entries, some of them are formulas or functions. What am I actually looking at here? And it can be cumbersome to start clicking in cells within a worksheet just to say, okay, that's just a number. Oh, that's just a number. Oh, here's a function. We have the if, we have the or function here. It can take you a lot of time if you have a big spreadsheet to figure out which numbers are actual entries and formulas. But in Excel, there's an easy way to distinguish the two. If you go to the Formulas tab here at the top, and you go to the Formula Auditing group, if you check the Show Formulas button, notice it went ahead and it will tell me which ones are which. So I no longer have to guess. And the great thing is that as I am in this cell, it's telling me which cells are actually making up that number. And it's easy to toggle off. I can click that as well. And notice the formulas disappear. You can also use the keyboard shortcut Control tilde. Tilde is the button just below the escape key on your keyboard, and you can easily toggle that on and off without going to the formulas tab at the top. Sometimes in Excel, we're so quick to delete data that we think that we might not need. And then it turns out after we labor and we put all this effort into our worksheet that we really needed that information that we deleted. And so a better way to make that information kind of disappear from the worksheet without actually losing it is to hide columns and rows. And so, for example, here I have this age column. Maybe I'm not sure if I'm actually going to need Fort Pierce in this data. I could delete it, just right click and do delete. Or instead of doing that, what I can do is hide. So if I right click column H and I click hide, notice it goes GI. And if you look very carefully, it's just a little bit thicker between those two columns. It's telling me that that information is hidden. Now you could put your cursor in between here and double click to make that come back. Or if you highlight the surrounding columns and right click and click unhide, it reappears. But you can do that from a lot of different places. Let's look here at this Lowe's. Maybe I don't care about May through July. So if I select those 3 rows and I right click, I can select hide. And now that information is not visible to me anymore. I haven't deleted, I still have that information, but it's not visible to the eye. Some practical applications, I know some people that hide columns and rows that contain formulas and functions just to try and pull them out of the spreadsheet so that somebody doesn't play around with the formulas. There are a lot of great uses for hiding, but often it's a better alternative to deleting information. Using named ranges in Excel is a fantastic way to speed up your processes in Excel. If I look here at my data, I have the average highs for different cities in the state of Florida. Let's go and look at Miami's highs. I'm going to go ahead and select my range B4 to B15. And if I look here in the name box up here, I'm going to go ahead and click. I'm going to call this range Miami highs. Now, some things to note, there are some things you can't do while naming a range. One of them is have a space in your name. So I'm going to call this Miami underscore highs. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on my keyboard to set that range. And now this information here is the named range Miami highs. Now you might be asking, why would I do this? If you have a lot of information in your workbook, named ranges are easier to remember than ranges. For example, let me go ahead and start typing the sum formula here. I could type in the range B4 to B15. That's a lot of typing. And hit enter, right? I get 1011. Or if I do the same thing, start typing out the sum function here, and I type in Miami. Oh, look, if you look here, Excel's saying, hey, there's this named range. Would you like to use that? Yeah, I can double click here and close it out, and bam, I get the same answer. Miami highs is much easier to remember, especially if I'm referencing that named range from a different worksheet. Every time you click around, you have the opportunity to go ahead and just do something weird to your function. I'll also note that if you go to the Formulas tab at the top, you can also name ranges from here. You can also manage your named ranges. Pasting seems like a weird one to put on this list. So many people copy and paste using Control C and Control V, but they don't realize that there are so many pasting options that they're not taking advantage of. Let's go ahead and copy this first table. I have a lot of different things going on here. Formulas, formatting. I'm going to hit Control C on my keyboard, and then instead of just doing Control V and J2, I'm going to right click here. And I have a lot of options. One of my favorites is just pasting the values. Let me go ahead and show you this. Notice that none of the formatting carried over here. And then right here, it's just a number, whereas in this table, it's an average function. So it just pasted the value there. So that's one of them. Paste values is a very awesome feature. Let's go ahead and look at a couple of other ones. I have some more here, such as paste with the formulas, same thing as paste values, but this time I kept my formulas here within the document. I also have this pop-out box, so I have even more, such as I can paste this as a picture. Notice that this data is a picture. It's not actually any type of data. Let's go and look at some of the other things. I can click here, paste special, or if I click this arrow here, I can click paste special here. Then I have every single paste option available to me. You should be taking advantage of your paste options. There are a lot of things you can do with worksheets that people don't realize they can do. For example, naming them. Right here I have sheet 1 and I have sheet 2. And I have some temperatures, and then I have some area codes for Florida. Just clicking through, if I had 20 of these sheets, it could get very confusing fast as to what's actually in this workbook. If I look here at sheet 1, the easiest way is to just double click. I have the option of naming the sheet something different. So I could put Florida temps. And once I'm done typing, I gotta hit enter to set the text. And now that worksheet's named Florida temps. So when I'm clicking through, I know exactly what I'm looking at. Something else that I could do, which I think is very helpful, is coloring the tab. So if I right click here on Florida temps tab, I go to tab color. I have the option of changing the tab color so that it can kind of stand out. If I have a color coordinating system, it's just a way to better organize your information. I'll just go ahead and make this blue. And now look at the difference. I also have the option of copying this information. Maybe I have a lot of plans for this information, and I just, instead of copying in the same worksheet, I want a different worksheet for each one. If I right click here on the tab and I select move or copy, I have this box here. I can click create a copy, and then I can select where I want it to, move it at the end. Notice it'll go before. So if I do Florida temps, and click OK. Notice it just copied the worksheet. Now it's the same information here, same colors. The only difference is here as I have 2 in parentheses. So I might need to rename this sheet. I also have the ability to move this to another workbook, which is a great feature. So if I right click here, I can click move or copy. Right now we're in book 1, but I could put it in a brand new workbook if I wanted to, or I already have this other Excel sheet open, so I could click that. It opens up everything in that workbook, and then I just need to select where, and then do I want to create a copy or pull it from this workbook into the other one? So you have to make that decision, but that is a great feature that people don't realize that they have the ability to do. And then the other thing that people don't realize, if I right click here, I can actually hide this information. I think too often we're quick to delete information, but I might need this again. So instead of hitting the delete button, I can click hide. I still have this workbook. Even though it's not listed here, if I right click and select unhide, notice it shows that this sheet is hidden, and I can click OK, and bam, it's right back in my workbook visible for me to be able to do things with. The quick access toolbar is one of the neglected features in Microsoft, and it can be found right here at the top of your screen. By default, it has save, undo, and redo, but you can customize the icons that you have up there and the features that you have the ability to do. One of the things that I love to use in Microsoft is filters, and I can do that by going to the data tab, by looking here in the sort and filter group and make sure my cursor is in there. I can click filter, and then I can do a quick filter. We just want to look at the state of Florida, maybe Georgia, and bam, that's great. And then you know what? I really didn't want to do that. So now I can release my filters. I can click here and do that, or I can click clear to remove the filters. That's such a pain, especially if I'm not even on that tab. But because I love filters, I went ahead and I added the filter icon to the quick access toolbar. And it saves me so much time. That way I'm not flipping through tabs. It's right there for me. You should be utilizing this as well. If you click the more drop down here and you click more commands, you have the ability to add and remove and to reorder your quick access toolbar. It begins by putting you in the popular commands group, and they give you a bunch of things that are popular. But if this is not what you're looking for, you have the opportunity to go ahead and add from the different tabs. For example, I know that filtering's on the data tab, so I can click there. Maybe you want to leave comments. You can do that from the review tab. You also have a lot of other things here. The quick access toolbar is a feature that can save you time if you utilize the feature. Freezing pages is that feature that you wish you would remember to do when you're on line 4,700 of the worksheet and you have to scroll up to get all the way back up to the top, and you're like, oh, I was doing something. So let's look at doing that. Now, what is freeze panes? So the freeze panes allows you to see header rows or a column identifier as you scroll through your workbook. So let's look at them. We're going to go to the view tab here at the top. We're in the window group, and right here we have freeze panes. Now we're going to talk about these. The first one here I want to talk about is freeze top row, and I'm going to go ahead and select that. The line here got just a little bit darker just to let you know that that row is now just a little bit different. Now watch what happens when I scroll through my data here. Notice that that top row always is visible regardless of where I am in the worksheet. We're going to go ahead and undo this, and it's easy to do. If you go back to freeze panes, you can select unfreeze panes, and now that row is no longer frozen. The next one we're going to look at is freeze first column. And what it did is that line appeared just a little bit thicker over here in column A. And now when I scroll right, notice that column A stays in place. It doesn't matter how far out I go. I will always see that first column. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. And the final one that I want you to see is freeze panes. Now, before I use that final freeze panes feature, I want to put my cursor in a specific spot, because if I don't, it's not going to work the way I want it. So for this, I'm going to pretend like I want to see the number, the test column, and the first name in column A, and I'll leave my header here. So to do that, what I want to do is put my cursor here in D2. If I go back to freeze panes and I select freeze panes, notice what happens. If I scroll down, my first row is still frozen. That's all I can see. But watch what happens when I scroll right. The first three columns are still visible. The final freeze pane option can be difficult if you've never used it before, but play around with it. You'll quickly catch on, and it'll make going through worksheets and workbooks so much easier. Sorting a table is a great way in Excel to organize your data so it's easier to look at. Right here, I have a bunch of data that I downloaded from my testing platform. There's over 4,000 entries in this worksheet, and it's pretty jumbled because it's based upon when the assignments were submitted. To make it easier to look at, I'm going to go ahead and sort the data. I'm going to go ahead and put my cursor here in A1, and I'm going to go ahead and select the entire data set. And what I'm going to do is go to the data tab here at the top. I'm going to go to the sort and filter group, and I'm going to select sort. Notice that my selection dropped down just one row because this is checked right here. My data has headers, and that's going to be important because it's going to make it easier to select our columns. Instead of it saying A, B, C, D, it will actually have the column name here. The first thing I want to do is I want to sort by first name, and I'm going to have it go A to Z so that it's in alphabetical order. But I'm going to add another level to this. I'm going to click here to add another level. And this time I'm going to go ahead and sort it by date completed. I have the option here, oldest to newest or newest to oldest. I'm going to actually select newest to oldest so I can see the most recent information first. I'm going to go ahead and add another level because this time I want to see test here. We can keep it A to Z or we can do Z to A. It doesn't really matter for what I'm looking at here. I'll go ahead and do Z to A just to mix it up. And I'll go ahead and select one more level. This time I'm going to go ahead and select mode. And what I want to do is I have testing and I have training modes only. I have A to Z or Z to A. I want to look at testing first, and so I have to know the alphabet. Testing is going to come first because of TE over TR. So I'm going to select A to Z, and then I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and watch what happens to my data. Notice it went ahead and it sorted my information alphabetically first, then by date, the test name, and then by mode. And now as I scroll through, I can see all of Abby's stuff. I have Alex here. I can see everything Alex has done over the last little bit. If you sort your data in Excel, it'll make it easier for you to look at the information that you have. The filter feature in Excel is one of my favorite features in Excel because it allows me to comb through data quickly without having to comb through lengthy spreadsheets to get to specific information. It's so much so my favorite that I have added it to my quick access toolbar. Most people don't realize that you can have filters on a set of data even if you haven't created it as a table. We're going to go and select our first row to begin. And what I'm going to do is select data, and we're going to select filter. If you look at my first row, you've noticed that there's a little box that I have the ability to click to get the ability to do a couple of things like sorting. I also have the ability to apply a text filter. For this data, I only want to see the testing. I'm going to go ahead and remove the testing so that I only see the training. And the reason is I'm just going to delete this information. So what it did was, if you look here at the numbers, you're going to see a bunch of gaps because the gaps are the ones that have the testing lines in it. What I'm going to do is select here in row 2, I'm going to hold Control Shift down just to select all of my data, and I'm going to right click and delete this information out. And now I have a blank spreadsheet. You're like, okay, what we can do now is release our filter and just select testing. And now I know that all the information here only contains the testing information. That's just one way to use filters. Another way to use filters is not just by checking different boxes, but we can actually do it based upon numbers. So right here, I'm going to click the score dropdown. I'm going to go to number filters. And this time I'm going to do greater than or equal to because I only want to see scores of 850 or higher. I'm going to click OK. And now all that it's showing me is those scores that met that criteria. From here, I can continue to narrow down my interest in this sheet. I have a bunch of tests here. I have Excel, I have PowerPoint. It looks like I have some Photoshop stuff in here. I don't need to see all of this information. So let's go ahead and filter out some of that data. I'm going to go ahead and check this box here that says select all so that I can remove every box that's checked. And now I can see every test set that's in this column. I'm going to go ahead and check the box that says Excel 2016 Core Practice Exam 1, and I'm only going to look at that data set. And now I have filtered my data even more. As I go through this data, it can be difficult because it's not sorted in alphabetical order. So let's go ahead and look at our first name. I'm going to click this drop-down box here, and I'm going to go ahead and select A to Z. And notice now that these records are now sorted alphabetically. I'm only looking at scores higher than 850. I'm only looking at the Excel test here, and all of my records are sorted alphabetically. But I want to go one step further. So right here, I have the completion date. I'm going to go ahead and click this drop down because you know what? I only want to look at scores over the last few days. So I'm going to go ahead and select 11, 12, and 13. I'm going to click OK. And notice that now I only have 15 selections out of 2,382. What an easy way to comb through data. And the great thing about filters is you can release it. Maybe I don't want to look at this week. I can click this back open. Maybe I want to look at all of February. I can click OK. And it will only show me the February scores. And so filters is awesome. It allows you to comb through data and look at things really quickly. It should be a feature everybody's using. A feature in Excel that's often overlooked is the quick analysis feature. I'm going to go ahead and select the data within this first table here. And if you look very carefully in the bottom right-hand corner of the table, this little quick analysis button appears. If I click that, it's going to give me a lot of cool quick options. So within this data, if I want to look at an icon set, notice it went ahead and populated it based upon the information here. I have some other formats here that I can apply very quickly. Of course, you have the conditional formatting up here if you need to dig into the different formattings, but here's a lot of quick ones that I can apply. I also have the ability to add charts from this information. This is a quick way to apply a chart to your data. I can add totals to this data, and there's more than just what's there. You have tables, and then you have spark lines as well. You're ever in a pinch, you don't have a lot of time to really format the data, use the quick analysis feature. Conditional formatting is an excellent formatting method, and it'll help you to visualize what you're looking at. And the best thing is it updates as your information changes. I'm going to go ahead and select this top set of data. We're on the Home tab. We're in the Conditional Formatting group, and you have the option to create rules. As you get more comfortable playing around with Excel, I definitely encourage you to play around with that. But Excel has a lot of predefined features to make your life so much easier. For example, I am on the color scales. I can just quickly hover over a scale. I also have the icon sets here, which gives you symbols to help you look at your data. We have the top and bottom rules. Now, don't get confused. The top 10 items, top 10%, you can change that. It doesn't have to stay at 10. It could be 5. It could be 50. It's up to you. And then you have above average and below average. And then, of course, we have highlight cell based upon rules such as greater than or less than or equal to. But I'll go ahead and apply above average just so you can quickly see that. And then it also gives you a couple of predefined formatting abilities here. Or if you don't like what you see, you can do a custom format. And you could put a fill in and a font and really make it look great. But if you're in a pinch, bam, green fill, dark green text, okay. And I'm done. When it comes to Excel, there are two types of people. You have the people who love functions and formulas, and then you have the other people that get anxious and get upset even thinking about working in a spreadsheet and using these things. The great thing about Excel is if you're the person that gets anxious, Excel has some built-in features to walk you through functions. For example, here, a lot of people get on their keyboard, they do the equal, they start typing in their function, and they just start typing away. And on simple functions, on functions that you feel familiar with and comfortable with, that's okay. But if you're not comfortable with it, it can be cumbersome if the function requires 2, 3, 4, 5 sections to make the function work correctly. A lot of people go to the formulas tab at the top and they play around in the function library, and you can do that. That's great. What I do is I usually just hit the insert function button found in the formula bar. I'm going to go ahead and do PMT because it's going to be a great example for what we're looking to do here. As you can see, this has 5 different sections to complete this function, and it begins with the rate. But the great thing is this is where the help is, right here. It tells us that the rate is an interest rate per period of the loan. For this, it would be 5.5%. And then it gives us an example that we would need to divide that 5.5% by the number of payments. So here, if it were quarterly, it would be 4. If it were monthly, it'd be 12. What's imper? Nobody knows. No, people do. It's right here. It tells us it's the number of payments of this loan. Well, it tells us right here that there's 120. PV, present value. What's the amount of the loan today? FV, future value. It's what does this loan need to be in the future. We also have the type, and it's just when the payment is made. But as you can see is that Excel breaks down this function step by step. And if we use the function builder, we can get through functions that we're not so familiar with. The Format Painter is an awesome feature in Microsoft Excel that everybody should know about, and if you're not using it, I encourage you to start using it now. If you look here at this range of cells right here, you notice that I have this box. It's a merge box, it's wrap text, there's a fill, a bold white, and then this cell right here is also merged, but it has white fill with an orange border. It would be a pain if I needed to do this. Let's say I wanted to find the amount of codes for Florida. I would have to go through and merge and then wrap text and click bold. There's a lot of steps that I'd have to do here to recreate this. But if I just use the format painter, I can do this in a couple of clicks. So let me go ahead and click this here. Notice I've selected that range. I'm on the Home tab. It's in the clipboard group, and it's right underneath some of the most common used things, cut and copy. If I select this format painter, notice that you have the little marquee scrolling around the cells. Lets me know that is selected. And watch what happens when I click here. Bam. I don't have to do anything special. I don't have to go and recreate everything. It does it for me. Let me go ahead and show you another part of the format feature that I don't think a lot of people know about. So I'm going to go ahead and select this line for 239 Florida. With that selected, I'm not going to click once. I'm going to click twice on the format painter. And this time I'm going to go ahead and select Alabama. And if you look at my cursor, you can see it's still trying to copy the format. And it's because I double click. So now I have the ability to just keep clicking through this list to all the different area codes that I want it to apply to. And when I'm done, I can hit the escape key, or I can just click off the format painter. The autofill feature in Excel is a feature that can save you a lot of time if you're utilizing it in your workbooks. If I look here at my data, I was playing around with this for a different video, but I have design 1, design 3, and then I have shirt 5. That list doesn't go together. If I use the autofill, I can actually fix this list very easily. I went ahead and put my cursor here in A11. If I put my cursor in the bottom right hand corner of that cell now that I've selected it, notice that my cursor turns to a black cross. If I click and drag that down, notice it went ahead and fixed the other cells that had the shirt title in it. Let's go ahead and look at another example. Here in B21, I have the sum function adding up the small shirts. I can use autofill to do the same for the medium, large, extra large, and 2XL. I can use the autofill feature to carry over this function so I don't have to manually key in the sum functions for the other shirt sizes. Again, I'm going to put my cursor here in the bottom right hand corner of the cell, changes to a black cross. If I just click and drag to the right, notice it copied that function over. And because it's a relative reference here, there's no dollar signs in my cell reference. Because it's relative, notice that for C, it changed the reference from B to C, and here it's D, E, and F. For this example, I used autofill and moved it to the right, but I can also do it down. Here I have another sum function here, adding up the design ones. So if I click and drag down with that black cross, notice it went ahead and did the same thing. I have B12, B13. Let's look at some other examples here. Here I have the month of January. Excel knows series, which is awesome. So for here, if I click and drag to the right, notice it went ahead and populated the months across. I can also go down on this, so you can see you can go either way. It knows days of the week, so if I wanted to do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I would just have to type in Sunday and then use the autofill down. Here is an example of just one number, but when I copy and drag down, notice it doesn't realize that it's a series and it just copies it down. The same would happen if it was just a normal word. It would just copy it down. It wouldn't know what to do with it. My rule of thumb is if that happens to you, do a couple of them. So right here I have 1, 2. Usually I say the rule is 3, but if I click and drag down, it knows 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will fill it in, and I could go on and on and on with that. And here my series is just a little bit different. I have 1 and then 3. If I click and drag down, notice that Excel knows that I'm skipping my 2. The autofill feature is an awesome feature in Excel. You got to start using it in your workbooks.
Thank you for watching this video. My hope always as I create new content is that my viewers feel better able to carry out tasks in Microsoft. If you like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know that you liked it. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. That way you get a notification when I release my next video. Do you have a suggestion on a video that I should make? Leave a comment below. Let me know what you want me to create. That way I can better help you.